As the creatures worked together to rebuild, the land flourished. Flowers bloomed where once there had been only dust. Rivers ran clear and the skies seemed to open with possibility. But just as the land began to heal, a quiet challenge arose, not from a powerful beast, but from within the hearts of the creatures themselves. The creatures who had fought so bravely began to notice a shift. They had become comfortable in their new world, and with comfort came the subtle winds of complacency. The ant, once relentless in its pursuit of progress, began to slow its pace. "We've done it," it thought. "Perhaps now we can rest for a while." The lion, whose roar had once shaken the earth, now sat peacefully beneath a tree, gazing at the horizon. "We have built something beautiful," it mused. "Perhaps it's time to enjoy what we've created." The eagle, who had once flown high with purpose, now soared lazily above the land. "The view is beautiful," the eagle thought, "and we've won the battle. Perhaps the struggle is over." And so each creature in its own way began to grow complacent. The fire that had once driven them, the burning need for change, began to fade. They had reached a point of peace, but at what cost? But in the distance, on the edge of the forest, something dark began to stir. A new threat, one that was not easy to see, began to emerge. It wasn't a mighty beast or a single oppressive force. It was a shadow that crept across the land, growing stronger each day. This shadow was forgetfulness. As time passed, the creatures began to forget the lessons they had learned. They no longer felt the weight of the struggles that had shaped them. The snake, who had once shed its skin to embrace transformation, began to grow rigid again. The wolf, who had once fought for unity, began to grow distant, more isolated. The cheetah, once quick to act, now moved with uncertainty. The Hydra may have been defeated, but the shadow of complacency was even more dangerous, for it crept silently and slowly, until one day it was hard to recognize the land for what it had once been. One day a strong wind swept across the land. It was a new wind, different from the gentle breeze that had carried peace and comfort. This wind was sharp, like the scent of the coming storm. It was the owl who first felt it. Perched high on a tree, the owl turned its head to the wind, its sharp eyes catching something the others couldn't see. "This wind. It is a sign," the owl whispered. "We have become comfortable, too comfortable. The forces of complacency will always rise when we stop moving forward. We must remember why we began this journey, to fight for justice, to fight for fairness." The lion, stirred by the owl's wisdom, rose to its feet. "The battle is not over," the lion said. "The Hydra may be gone, but there will always be forces that seek to divide us, forces that will test our resolve." The creatures knew it was time to act. The ant gathered its fellow ants, urging them to return to work. The wolf howled, calling the pack together, reminding them that they had once fought as one. The cheetah stretched its legs, ready to move with speed again. The snake slithered into the shadows, ready to shed its old skin and embrace the next phase of transformation. And the elephant, wise and steady, raised its trunk high and declared, "The road ahead will be long, but we must walk it. For the world we have built is not a permanent thing. It must be nourished, it must be defended, it must be carried forward." The creatures knew that in order to continue their journey, they had to gather once more. This time their focus was not just on what they had built, but on what needed to be sustained, what needed to be protected. The creatures called upon every being that had once joined them, even those who had forgotten. They called upon the rivers, the trees, the mountains, and the stars, everything that had been a part of the struggle. They reminded them all that the United Justice movement was not simply a destination, but a journey, one that required constant vigilance. As the creatures came together, the ant whispered, "We must work together once more. Our purpose is not just to create, but to preserve, to protect what we have and to grow even more." The lion stood proudly at the front, leading the charge. "We must be fearless," it roared, "for fear is the enemy of progress. We cannot let it rule our hearts." The eagle soared above them, its sharp eyes scanning the land. "We must always be watchful," it said, "for there are always forces that seek to tear us apart, but we can see them before they strike." The elephant, with its deep, steady voice, reminded them we must be patient, for change takes time, but as long as we work together, we will continue to build. And the snake, now shed of its old skin, whispered, we must transform, we must evolve, and with every new stage of growth, we become stronger. As the creatures, united once again, stood at the edge of a new chapter in their journey, they realized that the path they walked was never truly straight. It was a circle, a never-ending cycle of struggle and growth. There would always be challenges to face, forces to fight, and lessons to learn. But each time they would emerge stronger, wiser, and more determined. And so the creatures looked out upon the land, their hearts burning with the knowledge that their journey was far from over. They had come together in unity, they had fought for justice, and now they were ready to defend what they had built. The United Justice Movement was not a destination, it was the very essence of the journey itself. A journey that could only continue if every voice was heard, every heart joined together, and every hand was raised in the fight for a world of fairness, equality, and peace. As the wind blew across the land, the creatures knew one thing: the journey would never end, and the path forward would always be theirs to walk together. And so the story continues, dear listener. What will your part in it be? The road is open, the challenge before us is great, but together we can walk it. Is this the end, or perhaps just the beginning?